A poor husband's simple act of love turns into a heartbreaking discovery that changes his life forever. When Tunde, a humble mechanic, brings his wife lunch at her workplace, he uncovers a betrayal so deep it shatters him, but destiny turns his pain into power. This African emotional story is filled with suspense, betrayal, redemption, and love, reminding us that no matter how small you start, God can rewrite your story. Watch till the end, the twist will leave you speechless. From the moment he stepped off that rickety yellow bus, the man's hands wouldn't stop trembling. Not because of fear, but because of love. He held the food flask so tight against his chest, as though it carried his whole heart inside it. The poor man's name was Tunde, a mechanic from the small streets of Mushin, Lagos. And inside that flask was a simple meal, jollof rice and fried plantain, wrapped with care, cooked with love. He had borrowed 2,000 Nigerian nairas that morning from his friend Kunal, just to buy meat and a chilled bottle of Fanta. His wife, Ada, worked in one of those fancy offices in Victoria Island, where the air smelled like money and everyone spoke English through their nose. Tunde had never been there before. But today, he decided to surprise her. Because that morning, she had left home angry. Said she was tired of eating poor man food. Said she was tired of his greasy hands and mechanic smell. He had laughed it off, like he always did. He thought love was enough to cover the cracks between them. But as he crossed the shiny glass doors of her office building, he had no idea, his world was about to shatter. The security man at the gate almost didn't let him in. His slippers were worn, his shirt had a patch near the pocket, and the lunch flask looked out of place among the sea of sleek cars and perfume-heavy suits. But when Tunde smiled, that innocent, tired smile, the guard sighed and waved him through. Inside the building, the air conditioner hit his skin like ice. He could barely breathe. The floor was shining so much he could see his reflection. "Ah," he whispered, "nah hear my wife day work. God, bless her." He walked slowly, afraid to step on the floor like he might stain it. People glanced at him, some whispered, some laughed quietly. But Tunde didn't notice. He was already picturing her smile when she'd see him. He imagined her saying, "Oh Tunde, you came all the way for me." He imagined her hugging him tight, maybe even bragging to her friends that her husband, despite being a mechanic, still knew how to love right. But the reality waiting behind her office door was nothing like his imagination. As he reached her office floor, he paused. He heard laughter from inside. Ada's voice, sweet, soft, but mixed with another man's deep tone. Something in Tunde's chest froze. He stood there, just listening. The man's voice said, "You really married him, eh? That mechanic guy? You deserve better, Ada." And Ada's reply, "The one that cut through his heart like a broken bottle," came next. "I beg, leave that one. I only married him 'cause I pity am. He no even fit by ordinary perfume. Sometimes, I day even lie say I no get husband when my boss day around." For a moment, the world went silent. Tunde couldn't move. The food flask slipped from his hands, hitting the floor with a dull clank. The sound made Ada turn. Their eyes met through the half-open door. Her face went pale. The man beside her, well-dressed, with a gold wristwatch, just smirked. Tunde bent slowly, picked up the flask. His hands shook so bad the food inside spilled a little. He tried to smile, but his lips quivered. He whispered softly, "I bring you lunch." She couldn't even speak. Shame flooded the room, heavy and thick. Tunde turned around and walked away, quietly, with dignity, holding the flask like a broken promise. Each step echoed like thunder in his ears. Outside the building, he stood under the hot sun, staring at the busy road. Cars zoomed past, people laughed, life continued, but inside him, something had died. He sat on the pavement, opened the flask, and took a spoonful. The rice was cold. The plantain soggy. Still, he ate it. Because sometimes, pain tastes better when you swallow it alone. And in that moment, Tunde made a silent vow, that one day, they would regret ever mocking his love. The sun scorched above him, burning through his shirt, but Tunde didn't move. He just sat there, still clutching the food flask like a wounded man holding on to memories. Every laugh that drifted from the building behind him felt like mockery. Every passing car sounded like life was moving on, without him. People walked past, some staring, some pretending not to see him. One cleaner paused and asked, "Oga, you day alright?" He nodded, forcing a smile. "I day," he whispered. But deep down, he wasn't. His spirit was bleeding silently. After a while, he stood up, dusted his trousers, and began the long walk back home. He didn't even have transport money left. The 200 Nigerian nairas in his pocket had been meant for her soft drink. Now, it didn't matter. His feet dragged against the dusty road as he walked through the chaos of Lagos traffic, horns blaring, hawkers shouting, conductors arguing. He passed by a perfume shop. Through the glass, he saw bottles lined up neatly, the same kind Ada once said he couldn't afford. His reflection in the glass looked smaller, older, and tired. For the first time, he realized how much he had given up for her. That evening, when he reached home, the small one-room apartment felt emptier than usual. He placed the flask gently on the wooden table, as if it still carried something precious. He sat on the bed and stared at the cracked ceiling. Everything reminded him of her, the wrapper she hung behind the door, her slippers by the mat, her perfume scent still floating in the air. Memories began to flood him, their first meeting at Ojuelegba bus stop, when she dropped her bag and he picked it up for her. She had smiled and said, "Thank you." That smile had built his whole world. He remembered when they used to share one plate of rice and laugh about being broke together. How did that love turn into mockery? How did the woman who once held his hand in prayer become a stranger in his own life? He clenched his fist. The pain was too much to hold. But he didn't cry. Tunde had never been the kind of man to cry, not even when his father died. Instead, he whispered softly to himself. "God, if this not test, make I pass am. But if not humiliation, make you turn am to testimony." Days passed. Ada didn't come home. She stopped picking his calls. The landlord came knocking, asking for rent. His workshop had been struggling, and with no help, his bills piled up. But something in Tunde had changed since that day. The pain had birthed a strange kind of hunger, not for food, but for dignity. He started working longer hours. Fixed more cars. Slept at the workshop sometimes, just to avoid thinking. One night, while cleaning up, a man in a black SUV pulled over. He was stranded, his car wouldn't start. Tunde fixed it in less than 15 minutes. The man, impressed, asked, "Where's your workshop?" Tunde pointed to the small wooden shade under a tree. The man smiled. "You have golden hands, my friend. I run a car company in Lekki. Come tomorrow, I need people like you." That night, Tunde couldn't sleep. For the first time in weeks, he felt something light, hope. The next morning, he went there. The company was big, clean, organized. They gave him a uniform. They gave him a chance. Within months, he became one of their best technicians. He worked hard, saved harder, and spoke little. Pain had turned him silent, but focused. By the time Ada saw him again, almost a year later, she didn't recognize him. He wasn't wearing his torn shirt anymore. He wasn't that trembling man with a food flask. He was the man driving a brand new SUV, the same car she used to dream of. And destiny? Destiny was just getting started with its revenge. A full year had passed since that heartbreaking day, the day Tunde carried love in a food flask and left with shame instead. But time had done something strange to him. It didn't harden him completely, it refined him. The old mechanic from Mushin had now become Mr. Tunde Adewale, the head technician for a luxury car brand in Lekki, known by everyone as the man who could make a dead engine breathe. He had learned to wear confidence the way he once wore grease stains. His voice had grown calm, his walk steady. But behind that new composure still lived the same man who once sat under the sun, heartbroken, with cold jollof rice on his lap. Pain had not left him, it had simply learned how to wear a suit. One humid Friday morning, the company buzzed with excitement. A new investor was coming to partner with the CEO, someone rich, powerful, and influential. The staff whispered among themselves, cleaning the office floors twice and polishing every car until it sparkled. Tunde wasn't bothered. He stayed in the workshop, tightening bolts and wiping his hands on a clean towel. To him, every day was about work, not people. But fate had other plans. At exactly 11:45 a.m., a black Lexus SUV pulled up. From the tinted glass stepped out a woman in a flowing red dress, heels clicking sharply on the concrete. Her perfume, familiar. Her smile, practiced. Her face, unforgettable. It was Ada. The same woman who had once called him a poor mechanic. But now, she looked shocked. Her breath caught in her throat when her eyes landed on him. She blinked twice, unsure if her mind was playing tricks. Could this really be Tunde? The man she abandoned like a dirty rag? The manager rushed out to welcome her, bowing slightly. Madam Ada. We're honored to have you here. This is our best technician, Mr. Tunde Adewale. He'll oversee the project for your company. For a few seconds, Ada's legs went weak. Her world spun. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Tunde simply smiled politely, wiped his hands, and said calmly, "Good morning, Ma. Please, this way." No anger. No bitterness. Just calm grace that made her burn inside. As the day went on, Ada kept sneaking glances at him, the way he gave orders, the respect he commanded, the quiet strength in his voice. Everything about him screamed growth. Her mind went back to that day in the office, the spilled rice, the cold silence, the humiliation. She wanted to speak, to explain, to apologize, but his silence was louder than any apology she could ever give. During lunch break, she followed him to the parking lot. "Tunde, it's really you?" she whispered. He nodded slightly. "Yes, Ma. It's me." Her voice cracked. "You look different. You've changed." He smiled faintly. "Pain changes people, Ada. Sometimes, it teaches them what love never did." She swallowed hard. "Tunde, I..." But before she could finish, his phone rang. A woman's voice came through, soft, joyful, respectful. "Babe, I'm outside the gate. Should I come in?" Ada's heart dropped. She recognized that tone, love, pure and warm. He smiled into the phone. "Yes, my wife. I'll come pick you." Her chest tightened. "Your wife?" He nodded. "Yes. God gave me someone who saw value in the grease, not just the shine." Ada's eyes glistened. Her tongue felt heavy. For the first time, she realized what she had thrown away, not a poor man, but a rich soul. As Tunde walked away toward the gate, the wind carried his calm words back to her ears. "Some losses are blessings wearing disguise, Ada. You lost me to teach me my worth." Ada stood there frozen, tears rolling silently. Because sometimes, the worst betrayal, is realizing you betrayed the only person who truly loved you. That night, Ada couldn't sleep. She lay in her king-sized bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying every second of what had happened earlier, Tunde's calm face, his new car, his new life, and the voice of his new wife. Every sound in her house felt like mockery. The ticking of the clock whispered, "You lost him." The hum of the fridge whispered, "You were blind." Even her own heart whispered, "You deserve it." For the first time in a long while, she felt small, smaller than the same man she once belittled. The next morning, she arrived at her company earlier than usual, her mind still clouded. But karma wasn't done with her yet. Her boss, the same man she once tried to impress by pretending she wasn't married, called her into his office. "Ada," he said coldly, "I've been reviewing the partnership with the car firm. I heard your husband, or ex-husband, I suppose, is leading the project." She froze. "Why, yes, sir. It's a coincidence." He leaned back, tapping his pen. "Well, small world. Turns out that same man is one of the company's new shareholders. And from what I hear, he'll have a say in whether this partnership continues." Ada's knees almost gave way. What do you mean, sir?" Her boss sighed. "It means, Ada, you might want to fix whatever personal history you both have. Because right now, your job is hanging on his decision." As she walked out of the office, her heart pounded so loud she could hear it in her ears. Tunde? A shareholder? That couldn't be possible. But then again, the man she saw yesterday wasn't the same Tunde she once mocked. She decided she would go see him. Later that evening, she stood outside his new office building. It was tall, glassy, elegant, the kind of place she used to dream about working in. She took a deep breath and walked in. At the reception, she said softly, "Please, I want to see Mr. Tunde Adewale." The receptionist smiled politely. "Do you have an appointment, Ma?" Ada shook her head. "No. But tell him, it's his past." Minutes later, Tunde stepped out. Dressed in a fine suit, watch glinting under the light, yet still humble, still grounded. His expression unreadable. "Ada," he said quietly. "You shouldn't be here." She swallowed hard. "Please, I just need 5 minutes." He nodded once and led her into his office. The room was beautiful, furnished with dark wood and leather. On the wall hung a framed quote. "Don't mock a seed because it's buried. The rain will reveal its strength." Ada's eyes caught it, and tears welled up. "Tunde," she began softly, "I came to apologize. I was foolish. I let pride destroy something pure. I didn't know life would turn this way. Please, forgive me." He looked at her for a long time. His silence was heavy, but not cruel. Finally, he said, "Ada, I forgave you the day you mocked me. Because your words were the fuel that built me." Her voice cracked. "Then can we?" He raised his hand gently. "No, Ada. Life doesn't always give us the same stage twice. You left because you wanted gold. I stayed because I was willing to grow. Now, we're no longer the same people." She bit her lip, trembling. "Do you still hate me?" He shook his head. "No. I don't hate you. I thank you. Because your betrayal pushed me to discover my purpose." Ada's tears fell freely. Her heart broke again, but this time, it was the kind of pain that teaches, not destroys. When she left his office that night, the city lights blurred through her tears. For the first time, Ada realized that the richest people aren't the ones with money, they're the ones with peace. And as Tunde watched her car drive away, he whispered to himself, "Never mock the hands that once fed you. Life has a way of changing plates." Weeks passed after that emotional meeting. Ada kept trying to reach Tunde, not for love anymore, but for peace. She wanted forgiveness that would free her from the guilt that haunted her dreams. But Tunde had already moved on with quiet grace. His new life wasn't built on revenge, it was built on redemption. He had married Ifeoma, a soft-spoken teacher who loved him not for what he had, but for who he was when he had nothing. Together, they turned pain into partnership and built a life that radiated peace. But Ada's world began to crumble, piece by piece. Her company started losing contracts. The new investors withdrew support. One morning, her boss called her in again, this time, not for partnership talks. "Ada," he said sharply, "we can't keep you here anymore. You've been a distraction. And with recent business losses, we're cutting staff. I'm sorry, but you're laid off." The words hit like a slap. All her pride, her fake smiles, her expensive clothes, suddenly meant nothing. She packed her things, walked out of the tall building, and sat quietly on the pavement, just like Tunde once did. But this time, she was the one holding a flask, not with food, but with tears she could no longer hide. For the first time, she understood what humiliation felt like. Days turned into weeks. Ada sold most of her jewelry to survive. She moved out of her fancy apartment into a smaller place on the mainland. Friends she used to flaunt disappeared. Even the man she had betrayed Tunde with, her former boss, refused to pick her calls. One Sunday afternoon, she found herself walking near Mushin, tired, broken, searching for peace. The streets that once smelled of oil and dust now felt strangely comforting. She walked past a small church, and through the open window, she heard a familiar voice preaching. Her heart skipped. She looked in. There he was, Tunde, standing before a crowd, not with tools or car parts, but with a microphone, sharing his story. He wasn't the mechanic anymore. He was now Mr. Adewale, founder of a car tech institute, giving young men skills and hope. He spoke humbly. "Pain can make you bitter, but if you let God use it, it can make you better. Don't curse your heartbreak, sometimes it's the only road to your blessing." The crowd clapped. Ada stood outside, tears streaming silently. After the service, she waited. When Tunde stepped out, she approached him, slow, unsure, her head bowed. "Tunde," she whispered, "I didn't come to beg for anything. I just came to say, thank you. For not letting my mistake destroy you. For turning my shame into something powerful." He looked at her gently, no anger in his eyes, only compassion. "Life taught me something, Ada," he said softly. "When people break you, don't break back. Build instead. That's how you win." She nodded, crying. "You're a good man, Tunde. I didn't see it then." He smiled. "Maybe you weren't meant to. Some people come into our lives to wake us up, not stay." Then, he reached into his pocket and handed her a folded envelope. "Inside is an appointment letter. My company's opening a new branch, they need admin staff. You've got experience. Start again. But this time, with humility." Ada froze, staring at him. "You'd really do that? After everything?" He nodded. "Forgiveness isn't weakness, Ada. It's freedom." She fell to her knees, sobbing. "God bless you, Tunde." He helped her up gently. "God already did. That's why I can bless others too." As she walked away, holding the envelope to her chest, a strange peace filled her heart. The same road where love once ended, had now become the road where grace began. Moral of the story: never look down on anyone because of their situation today. Life has a way of turning tables, and those you mock today might be the same ones who lift you tomorrow. True success isn't about revenge, it's about rising without hate, forgiving without fear, and using your pain to light another person's path. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that touch the soul.